and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are drinking lemon and ginger tea. Oh no, I'm drinking lemon and ginger tea. Joe is drinking hot chocolate because he fancy.
Vicky was using the royal we there, weren't you? Basically.
Is it good? Do you like it?
It's all right. It's all right. I think it's a bit. It should be made with milk, really. Hot chocolate.
Well, I know, but that isn't.
It's not bad for a watery one.
But this is good because I don't have a fridge in my office, but I do have a kettle and I wanted a hot chocolate option. And it's Galaxy hot chocolate. Other hot chocolates are available. I think it's like Nestle. I feel like that makes me a bad person.
It does.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nestle, but you're rubbish.
You bought it.
You told me to.
I told you to buy hot chocolate.
You told me to buy Galaxy hot chocolate.
Just don't make me sound like a bad person. Okay. Anyway, so today, Joe's interviewing me. Like Jeremy Paxman.
I'm not really like Jeremy Paxman.
Hopefully he's going to be nice and not make me cry. But before we get to that, what are we reading? Joe, what are you reading?
I've kind of fallen out at the end of all the books I was reading like a grown-up, and I have started reading a book that was just on my Kindle. It's called Neuromancer. It's by William Gibson. It's kind of a dystopian kind of virtual reality detective story heist movie type thing.
Cool. Is it good?
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's kind of what people in the 80s thought the 2020s were going to be like.
They could not have seen this year coming.
We all had like hover cars and
we're allowed to leave our houses.
Lived in virtual reality and stuff, and all we do is sit at home and.
Oh my god! And we're recording this the day before, no, 2 days before lockdown Mark 2 in the UK.
Yay!
And frankly, we're all a bit sad about it. So we don't want to talk about that right now because there has never been a better time to write a book, and that is what this podcast is all about. I'm reading two fiction books. I'm reading The Bus Driver Who Wanted to Be God by Edgar Kerrett.
Have you not finished that yet?
Well, it's short stories. I'm dipping in and out.
It's only little.
Dipping in and out. And in between, I'm reading Carpe Jugulum by Terry Pratchett, which of course means go for the throat. But like Carpe Diem.
So The Bus Driver Who Wanted to Be God. Some of those short stories I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Some of them I did not get. How are you finding it?
Well, I haven't got to the ones that you didn't. I didn't really get one the other day. I mentioned it, didn't I? I was like, I don't really get this, but I've read a couple that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved the bus driver one,
mm-hmm.
the one about the bus driver himself. And then I read another one that I loved that I now forget, so I'm gonna have to flip back through. And then next podcast we'll talk about the short stories and that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I've read some more. And my non-fiction, I'm still reading Read Books All Day and Get Paid for It by Jenny Nash, because I'm kind of making notes. I'm also reading this week's Bookaholics Anonymous book is The Secret Lives of Colour by Cassia St. Clair, which is really interesting. Look at the history of colour and what colour is and how it's been used in fashion.
I've heard about this book.
I've talked about it before.
Huh.
You might have heard her on a podcast as well.
Maybe.
Because that's where I heard about it and then bought her book.
Okay.
So, anyway, we've also been... builders had the last day there at our house today. And
Hi Ken, hi Phil.
and they have put the most beautiful oak windows into our house. Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And if you'd like to see them, you can go to projectdingle.co.uk, which is our whole blog of our house renovation. So I know we talk about this all the time. If you're interested in what we've been doing, go to projectdingle.co.uk. The link will be in the show notes.
But it looks great, and we now have.
And it's warm.
It's warmer, and the house looks tidier and much more complete. And for want of a windowsill or two, it's kind of getting close. It's nice.
It's stunning.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Oh, and just for this week in the Cabinet of Linguistic Curiosities, this week's word is dragsman. Noun: a thief who steals from vehicles. In Victorian slang, a dragsman was a thief who specialised in stealing from drags, which is a kind of elaborate stagecoach, usually drawn by 4 horses with seats inside and on top. In 1830, Charles E. Bowles was one of the most notorious dragsmen of 19th century America. And he wrote a little poem. He disguised himself with an old flour bag pulled over his head and had like sticks in a nearby bush to look like rifles as backup.
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite cool. And he left a bizarre calling card when he robbed a coach outside Point Arena in California, and it said, "I've laboured long and hard for bread, for honour and for riches, but on my corns too long you've tread, you fine-haired sons of bitches."
Nice.
So yeah, signed Black Bart. This was one of a number of short verses Bowles left at the scenes of his crimes. So yeah, he did get caught eventually.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so yeah, Dragsman. Basically like a highwayman. It sounds like an American version of highwayman, maybe. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, this week, Joe is interviewing me about my experiences in the studio last week.
I mean, basically what this is going to be is me prompting Vicky to talk about...
No, you're interviewing me. Don't downplay it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I recorded my first ever audiobook for Audible in the studio.
I feel like if you're going to
Shall I shut up?
overrule me on everything I say, then this is not going to go well, so you need to hush.
Okay, I'm going to hush. Okay, go.
If you're going to tell me to interview
you. Go.
Outrageous. Okay, so you spent a couple of days this week recording your audiobook.
I did.
How did that happen? How did this all occur?
Well, it all started with pole dancing, Joe.
Pole dancing?
Yeah. Pole dancing.
As many good stories do.
As many good stories do. I was at a showcase at Pure Studios, which is my pole and aerial studio, and I was performing on the trapeze. And in the audience was a friend of a friend. Her name was Victoria Haslam. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Victoria.
And she works for Audible, and she got in touch with me and said, well, she obviously, Annie told everybody who I was before I did my solo piece, and said that I had a podcast, and so Victoria went and had a listen and came back and said, I think you would write a great audiobook for Audible. Would you be willing to do an Audible original? Would you want to put in a proposal and all the rest of it? So I did. I wrote a book proposal, which I'd never done before. Sent it off to Audible, and they loved the idea, and it's being released New Year.
Blimey.
I know, right? So yeah, that's how that happened. It was total chance encounter.
Gosh. But I guess by having the podcast, you gave people an opportunity to get to know you.
Yeah, having the podcast and a blog, because she read all my blog stuff as well, and yeah, so you got to put your stuff out there, talk about what you do, why you do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, that's a pretty remarkable chance collection of things.
Yeah.
So the moral of that story is everybody needs to go and join a pole studio.
Yeah. Preferably Pure Studios in Hereford.
Sounds to me. Cool. So what's... this is your first audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know... do you listen to audiobooks? Who listens to audiobooks? What's the audience like?
There is there's a massively growing audience of audiobook listeners, which is getting bigger and bigger. The audiobook kind of slice is growing, of the market. And the interesting thing is that it's not replacing, it's like everybody thought a few years ago that Kindles, like ebooks, were going to mean the death of print books. That hasn't happened at all, unsurprisingly. I read both, you read both. And the same has not happened for audiobooks. And actually, they're an entirely different thing. We listen to audiobooks when we go on long car journeys. Mm-hmm. We've listened to Harry Potter. We've listened to World War Z, which was brilliant.
Yes.
And we've listened to some of the Wizard Harry Dresden files.
Yes.
Which are entertaining. But they are... I guess they are a different... They're acted, aren't they? The good ones are acting. It's almost like listening to a radio play on Radio 4 or something. And so it is a totally different experience from reading a book. And I will often listen to an audiobook and then I will buy the book because some books lend themselves better to taking notes when you're actually reading physically. Sure. And some people like to make notes in the margins and that kind of thing.
So where are people listening to audiobooks? Like you say, the only experience I've really got of them is long car journeys.
Yeah, so long car journeys, long play journeys. People listen to them while they're out walking, while they're out running.
Okay.
All over the place, really, because I can't just sit and listen. I find that very difficult.
It's difficult to just sit down and listen.
Yeah, but if I am driving somewhere, I listen to podcasts, I listen to audiobooks. When I used to go out running, I don't run anymore. When I used to run, if I knew I wasn't going to be on the roads, I might listen to audiobooks and things. I don't have my ears plugged in when I'm on a road because I don't think it's safe. When I'm out walking, I don't know. I like having the sounds of nature, but I do know a lot of people who listen while they're out walking.
I guess if you were always taking your dog for the same walk or something, if you're doing a regular thing like that, rather than the walking that we do, which is like recreational walking. If you had necessary walking, I guess that would be similar. Yeah,
and I think people listen as well while they're doing housework and stuff. So if we listen to the radio when we're renovating and things, but I can imagine, I hadn't really thought about it, but we could easily put an audiobook on, couldn't we, and listen while we were renovating. Okay. So yeah.
All right. So, if you know, have you audiobooked any of your other books?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Is that in the plan?
It is in the plan, yes.
Is it in the plan because of this week?
It was in the plan anyway, but I had been putting it off in the manner that we do things when we don't know where to start or what to do. Like,
Okay.
I literally didn't know anything about it, and so, and then in my head, when I got asked to do the audiobook, I was like, oh, well, I can just do this one first and see what it's like. And now I know just how hard it is. And I'm gonna do my other books as well.
So tell us about the experience. How does it work? What did you do?
Well, this obviously was all arranged for me, and that was the beautiful thing about doing it with and for Audible, is that they took care of everything.
They're a grown-up business, and they just told you what to do.
Yeah, and they threw resources at it, and it was great. So they found me a studio, a local studio, which was KJM Studios in Hereford. They were brilliant.
Hi, KJM Studios in Hereford.
Corin at KJM absolutely looked after me so well. It was a really, really nice experience. He was like the sound engineer. Normally they do bands and things. They don't, and every now and then, like, I think they had, I don't know if I can even say this, but they've had Monty Don in and stuff like that. So,
okay.
But yes, so they sorted all that out. They gave me dates. They gave me a studio. They had a director in my ear. So when I was narrating, I had a director in my ear via something called Clean Feed, which is what I've experienced before because I've done radio interviews and things. And it's a special type of telephone line that just is very clean, as in like audio clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was the director not there? They weren't physically there?
No, she was at her place, wherever she lives.
Oh, so she was just sitting down, listening to the proceedings and offering advice and guidance and...
Yeah, I could not have done it without her. Without her, it would have just been rubbish,
Okay.
frankly. Yeah, and so this is why I think it's really important. This is why I wanted to do this episode, because like before I walked in there, I thought, oh, I'm just going to read my book.
You're going to sit down and read your book? No.
It's nothing like that. And she had so many, like it's a different beast. Like I said at the beginning, it's an audiobook. Next time I write a book for audio, I'm going to approach the writing differently.
Really?
Yeah, because reading it is not the same. Like one of the things that really, I changed quite a few things on while I was actually recording it, because I read it out loud and I was like, oh, you know what? That's not what I meant. And reading stuff out loud, it lands differently.
Interesting.
It's really interesting, yeah.
So, but if that same statement or paragraph that you edited for voice, if you'd read it just as a chunk of your book, would you have changed it? You know, if you'd gone through a re-edit process, would you have changed it, or was it purely the virtue of reading it out loud that made you change it?
It was the act of reading it out loud that made me change it, because it just, when you read stuff in your head, it doesn't have the same weight as when you hear it said out loud.
Right.
With tone, and you can't see the emphasis on a page, really. Do you know what I mean? You can't. It's you. Sorry, everything went dark. You make your own. You make your own reading when you read a book, almost. I mean, the writer directs it to a certain extent, but the reader reads it in a way that they receive it. But when I read out I can't even remember specifically what the lines were now, but a couple of lines, and I was just like, ooh, that's not how I wanted to come across at all.
Okay.
It just sounded harsher than I wanted it to. A couple of them, yes, I would have edited them out, but quite a lot of them, no, it was purely the act of reading it out loud. So read your stuff out loud, actually.
So is that being added to the tips for editing a written book now, do you think? You will go forward and read out your book?
Yeah, or I will do text-to-speech on the computer.
Right, and listen to it?
Yeah, listen to it, if I can bear to do so, because it's obviously a mechanical voice. But...
That'll be tough, yeah, okay. Okay, so you're saying the producer, the director,
yeah,
was fundamental to the process?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying you couldn't have done this yourself?
I mean, yes, I could. I would not have done nearly as good a job.
Okay.
And knowing what I now know, I can take what I've learned and apply it to reading my own audiobooks, reading my own books now and turning them into audiobooks. I will apply that. But I'm really glad that I had my first experience with a director, because she just picked up stuff that I just wouldn't have, it wouldn't have occurred to me to change or to notice. And she was like, I argued with her on a couple of points and was like, oh, this is why I think this. And she was like, okay, that's fair enough. But most of her suggestions and directions I took and was like, yeah, absolutely spot on. So
nice. Okay. And did you enjoy it? How was it?
I really enjoyed it. It was really hard. Like, really hard. I do not recommend reading a 60,000 word audiobook in 2 days. It was absolutely exhausting. So yeah, I would spread it out. And that wasn't my decision. That was Audible's decision, and it was fine. I'm not complaining. But it was really hard work. So do not underestimate how hard it is to read, because most of us don't talk for that long.
No, absolutely.
And even, if you imagine if you've ever done a speech or a presentation or something, imagine that for basically 6 hours on 2 days. Really tiring. Yeah, but no, I loved it. I loved the whole experience. It was really good fun. Okay.
So, could you, if you had a book that needed doing, could you now find a director and a studio and just pay them and do it?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So I've got a studio. I will go back to Corin at KJM because he was great, and I will probably go back to Nicola at Audible and get her to help me out. I don't know what I'm going to do for my How the Hell Do You Write a Book. I don't know whether I'm going to do that on my own. My Mindles, I'm certainly going to narrate on my own, just on my own, because they're shorter books.
Yeah.
So yeah, for my How the Hell Do You Write a Book, I may well, I'll find out how much her fees are. May well get her to help me out with that. But yeah, I've got tips and things, so I can kind of listen back to it. I can get other people to listen, like beta listeners, I guess, listen back to pieces and yeah.
Okay. So tips then. Come on. Spit them out. What have you got?
Well, practical tips. I need to find them now.
Oh.
There we go. My practical tips. And this was one that Audible gave me. Eat before you get there.
Right.
To prevent rumbles. And my stomach did start going after a while. I was like, I'm really sorry. I promise I ate breakfast. And they were like, no, we just didn't want you to start with rumbles because you will get hungry really quickly. Because, like I said, it's really tiring. It takes a lot of brain work. Make sure you've got a really quiet room or a booth. Build yourself like a sound muting. It needs to be a small space, because even this office is too bright. It's too big.
Yeah, too echoey.
Yeah. So it needs to be a proper small space. And within the recording studio, they had to build me a booth within the studio because whilst the studio was great for bands playing and singers, for reading an audiobook, it was too bright audio-wise. So wear quiet, comfortable clothes.
Okay.
Quiet clothes that don't rustle.
Don't rustle.
Yeah, and don't move around too much. And also, wear, I just thought, I'm going to be sitting there for a couple of days. I could wear my bright yellow jogging bottoms. But I deliberately wore something that was a bit nicer because I think if you think about what you're doing, you're presenting your ideas to people and you need to, I think, wear something that makes you feel confident and like you're doing something proper, you know? Need a great microphone. This one is a great microphone. This is fine. This is a Blue Yeti. There are other. I'm not sure. I think people recommend slightly different ones, but you can get a really, really good microphone for just under 100 quid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Water. Lots and lots and lots and lots of water. So much water. And then on day 2, Corin brought me chamomile tea with honey in it, and that was amazing for my throat.
Okay.
So that really helped. And then, yeah, top tip. This is what Nicola made me do. I got to the end of the 2 days, and we were like, yay. And she was like, right, we're going to do the introduction and chapter 1 again. And I was like, whoa! But she was quite right, because those first 2 chapters was just me being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was very kind of stiff and...
Sure.
You know, and so we went back and re-recorded it, and that's absolutely the right thing to do. So
interesting. Go
back and record the first couple of bits that you do. Go back and record them again because they'll be much better.
So how much time do you think it took for you to kind of get beyond the kind of clunky, awkward starting voice?
Took probably half an hour to an hour.
Okay. For
me to get beyond that, and I think you'll listen to the first 2 chapters and be like, oh yeah, and then it'll get a little bit awkward as against chapter 2, and then it'll kind of get better and better as you go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. That's really interesting stuff. So, I don't know. What's more tips? Less practical. How do you do it? How do you speak your words?
Okay, so what you don't do, and I found this really difficult, is project and shout, because what you have to do is speak a lot slower than you normally would. And this is what I do. I was like trying to explain. You know what I do with drills? When you're like, you know how I'm bad at drilling things?
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, just, you don't need to like push it too hard.
Yes.
I kind of found that, like, I likened that to speaking, to narrating, because I had to slow down and be a lot calmer and more measured. But to do that, I found my voice getting like projecty, like I was having to project to the back of a room. You don't need to do that because your microphone is right in front of you. So you just need to speak normally.
Be calmer and slower, but more normal.
But more normal, which is it's a really difficult thing to do.
Difficult balance.
Yeah, but it's important for two reasons. Firstly, because it can make you sound just, you know, not fake, but not, you know, not you, and a bit didactic. And the second reason is it's really tiring on your vocal cords to do that. So you need to just speak in a normal voice. So that takes practice. Speak slowly and at a normal pitch. You don't need to project. Think about the feeling behind the words as well. And so it's like when you get tired, especially when you've done a bit of narration, you start to just read the words off the page. And every time I did that, my director would kind of pull me back and be like, okay, so, you know, you're reading it again. Let's narrate it. It's like acting. It's like if you've ever done any acting or, you know, any drama at school, it's like that. So
were you, because for me, I would imagine that I would have to kind of quietly read this paragraph and then I would narrate it. Or were you just, you know, narrating it from the get-go? You just arrive at that paragraph and read and narrate it? So I was just narrating it because I know the book very well, because I've written it and edited it and been through it like 4 or 5 times. Sure. But I would imagine if you were coming in to narrate somebody else's work, I would hope that you had read it through first once. But yeah, you might well do it like that. I don't know. I don't know how narrators work. But I just read it. I do think that a little bit more thought before some of... Because the other thing is you kind of want to get into a flow as well. So you can break section by section, but you don't want to really break paragraph by paragraph. Yeah. Because it starts feeling choppy, I guess. Yeah. When they stitch it together. They can stitch it together, and they do a great job of that. But I think if you can make a flow and kind of read through in a storytelling manner, it's like storytelling as well. So if I was telling a story, and like sometimes she's like, oh, okay, here was a big thing. Quite a few times she would say something like, okay, stop. This is a huge idea. And you need to just slow down and let it land. And that was interesting because for me, a lot of the things that she pulled me up on for that, I was just like, oh, that's just something that I wrote. You know, it's something that I know. And because I know it so well, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. Sure. But because she didn't know it and it was a new idea for her, she was like, oh, you know what, this is really important. And then counterintuitively, you need to pull back from what you're talking about, because the more important the point, the kind of quieter and calmer you need to get almost. And that helps it land more, which is really interesting because you think, oh, this is a really important point, I want to get excited about it. Actually, with an audiobook, that's not what you want to do. You want to kind of pull it back a bit. Yeah. Allow it to land calmly and let people hear it and digest it a bit. Yeah. What else did you say? More narrating tips? Yeah, so vary the pitch and rhythm of the way you speak. You don't want to just get into a monotonous kind of, you know, you want to think about how your words are landing, and again the feelings behind it as well. So smile. That was the thing. If you're talking about something happy, smile, because you can hear a smile in someone's voice, right? Sure. Yeah. So that was important. Ground the narration at the end of sections and chapters. I don't know what that means. No, nor did I until she explained it. That meant, you know, especially if I was asking a question at the end of a chapter or a section, I might finish with a bit of upspeak like that. But because I was finishing a section, she would say, oh, you need to ground it, so make sure that your voice is coming down like this. Because if it goes up, it's almost like something's coming next. Okay. So it's important that if you're starting a new topic, your pitch needs to come down, and we're like, and now we've finished this topic. And then we start again with the next one. Right. And so that was something that I had not thought about before. Yeah, interesting. But it was really, really important.
And she's right. I'm sure she's right. I feel like I probably wouldn't have directed it quite this way, but it's not really my book, it's Audible's book. I mean, it's my book, but Audible has their way of doing things. I'm going to take on board an awful lot of what I've learned, but I know that when I narrate my How the Hell Do You Write a Book, there'll be a lot more ad-libbing, there'll be a lot more asides, it'll be a lot looser, I think, than what I've done with the audiobook.
More conversational and less formal.
And I mean, it is... The direction that she gave me was to be conversational and informal, and she's done that. It's just, I think for my other books, it'll be like there'll be more laughing. There'll be more, if I'm saying something funny, I will actually laugh. And there were a couple of moments where I had a laugh in my voice, and that's fine. But I think, if I'm doing it on, because the other thing is I was really nervous to work with a director as well, because I'd never done that before, and so that was very nerve-wracking. And so when I'm doing it on my own, I think I'll feel a bit freer to be a bit more me. And I think when I work with her again, if I work with her again, I think she'll find me a little bit different because I will be a bit more confident about it and be like, okay, well, this is me and this is how it's going to be. Still whilst keeping in mind all of the stuff that she said about speaking slowly and, grounding out sentences and that kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
So so that was my non-expert beginner audiobook experience of recording, and I really hope it's useful for people.
And would you recommend people who have written a book to record an audiobook?
Absolutely, yeah. Because apart from anything else, it's an extra revenue stream for you. It'll be an entirely new audience. There's a lot of people who only listen to audiobooks. I know Louise. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Louise.
Louise very rarely reads books, but she listens to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
And so, there'll be an entirely new audience for people. It's a very intimate experience as well. If you think you've got somebody's voice in your ear, it's...
You kind of know them by the end of the book, don't you? You feel like you've got a relationship almost.
Yeah, and it will give you a better feel for how, to improve your writing. Like I said, there's stuff that I'm going to do now with my writing. I'm going to read stuff out loud, and I know that it will make me a better writer because I will want to change the way I've written things.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Right, so what's the takeaway?
Takeaway is... practice a shitload. Practice like you would if you were giving a TED talk or something, or a presentation, and then re-record the first part again. Yeah,
because the first part was not as good as the middle bit.
No, the first part was me being like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to be this person who's going to read like this, and it's going to be terrifying. It was not good.
Fair enough. Did they actually Did they actually record the first couple of bits, or did they just pretend to record and while you waffled and did it badly?
No, they recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I assume they did.
Maybe they didn't.
Maybe they didn't.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you for that. Would you like to read out a review?
No, I think you should, because I've talked a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this week's review is from Sarah Silver.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. And she says, I love listening to Vicky and Joe.
No, she said that.
Oh, made me laugh out loud.
And gave us 5 stars.
5 stars. I love listening to Vicky and Joe. I've not listened to a podcast before that teaches really useful information but also makes you laugh out loud. My husband, not a business owner yet, now tunes in too and is catching up on the back episodes on his way home from work.
Yay! Hi, Mark.
I'm sorry, Mark.
So thank you, Sarah. If you would like to leave us a review, we will really love it if you do. Please, you can go and rate us and review us on iTunes or anywhere you get your podcasts from. It helps us be found by people, and it also makes Joe happy.
It does make me happy.
It does. And you will get your name and your business read out. So Sarah is the chemical translator, and you can find her at thechemicaltranslator.com. She's German translator and specialises in chemical companies. Yeah.
Niche.
And she's great at what she does.
Awesome.
Yeah, and she's also super lovely. And so, yes, we will read you out. We will plug your business. That is not a bribe. We're just saying that's what we'll do. And also, if you've listened to every episode, send me an email because I will send you something silly.
Nice.
Say thank you. It'll be a nice thing. It's not just like a horrible, it won't be a bag of glitter or something. I would never do that. I have a new Mindle out. I have a new book out. It's called Banish the Blank Page of Doom Fast, and you can find it on Amazon.
Mindle being mini Kindle.
Mini Kindle. Yes. To help you write your book.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. To help you write your book.
Help you write your book.
You're going to write a book. Anyway, and I am, at the end of November, for Black Friday, launching a special offer on joining Team Moxie, the Power Hour.
Cool.
So watch this space and follow me on Instagram for more information. I am at Tiny Beetle Steps.
That's new. Don't normally stick that at the end of the podcast.
No, I've got a coach now. She's telling me to do things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do that.
And also join my mailing list as well at moxiebooks.co.uk. Obvs.
Yeah.
Haven't sent many emails recently, but
Send some emails.
I will. And yeah, thanks. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Alright.
Thanks for Jeremy Paxmaning me, Joe. You were very kind.
Well, yes. I didn't think you deserved, harsh treatment.
I don't. It's cool. I've had a very tough day and I have bruises on my back and my arms.
From trapeze.
Yes, from trapeze. Yes, just to be clear about that, from trapeze. I've been doing elbow rolls. If you want to see what I've been doing on the trapeze, you can follow my other Instagram account at tree.frog.toe. So there you go.
Nice.
We're going to go now. We'll be back same time next week when we shall be talking about the 3 big reasons most people want to write a book.
3 big reasons most people want to write a book?
3 big reasons people want to write a book.
Oh, okay.
Most of the people who want to write a book.
That needs editing.
You need editing.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.